You might want to check for that. There was a famous experiment conducted by Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes. And there are two cities in the old world, and one of them, they knew that at 12 noon on a particular day of the year, that the sun was directly overhead and you could see the bottom of a well.
Oh, okay.
You don't run around looking at the bottoms of wells.
No.
Because the light doesn't take, it's just, no.
Doesn't get down there.
Doesn't get down there. How can we use this observation to see if Earth's surface is curved? We needed another well. Turns out we can't see the bottom of both wells at the same time. What might explain this? Well, there are two possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with this. Well, there are two possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with the sun. Well, there are two possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with the sun. Well, there are two possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with the sun. Well, there are two possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with the sun that's small and close by, so that the light hits the second well at an angle. A little flattened because of that.
Right.
And so almost everything in the universe is either spheres or slight distortions of a sphere for some other thing that's happening to it. I mean, we can just see how the universe favors spheres.
So it's nature.
Right.
Basically.
How physics conspires to make things round. Look at all those spheres. Well, would you just look at that? So many globular, spherical objects out there. Jeez, look at that spherical body of water. Oh, man. Quote, Eratosthenes believed that the sun was a very long way away compared to the size of the Earth. His math uses that assumption. His math uses that assumption because he presumes. His math uses that assumption because he presumes, without much evidence, that the rays of light from the sun are parallel. However, if you don't assume that the sun is a long way away, then the arithmetic for calculating the Earth's radius changes, and the math becomes dependent on the distance to the sun. If you assume that the sun is at an altitude of around 6,000 kilometers, a distance equal to the radius of the round Earth, then Eratosthenes' experiment does indeed prove that the Earth has an infinite radius, i.e. that it's flat. So the flat earthers believe that the sun is 6,000 kilometers above the Earth, which squares things up with Eratosthenes. But they aren't really using Eratosthenes to prove that the Earth is flat. They're using the assumption that the Earth is flat to prove that the sun is 6,000 kilometers above the Earth, end quote. Just like the quote, round earthers are using that experiment to prove that it's round, right? We have two instances of circular reasoning. Continuing the quote, since they can measure the observed angle subtended by the sun's disk, they conclude that it must be about 51 kilometers in diameter. So this isn't a proof of the flat Earth, but it's also not proof of the round Earth. The experiment really doesn't tell you anything at all, unless you know the distance to the sun. And this is why I often state that you need to take your mind back and stay uninvolved in the false dichotomy that exists between, well, I'm a flat earther, I'm a round earther. Stop letting people invent these categories to put yourself into, okay? Unless you know something, you don't know something. Quit making assumptions. Now, no matter what you believe, definitely quit being the type of retard that perpetuates false information just because you think that it fits your narrative. The Eratosthenes experiment being a perfect example of that. That's why I'm covering this, because I have grown-ass professors in college that are regurgitating this shit as if it's a fact. These morons. Right? Much love.